60 Minutes and The Age go after Peter Schiff and Euro Pacific Bank. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a talk about, well, a recent 60-minute episode and an article from The Age. Now, you can find this episode on 60 Minutes Australia. You can't comment on it. The like to dislike is 223 to 25. And, well, it just goes through their investigation into Peter Schiff. And, all the stereotypical music and B-roll footage and people from all over the world about this tax avoidance scheme that people are jumping into. Now, Peter has made a response, and he's gone through it, and he's going to, well, take action against 60 Minutes and against The Age for their article that you can see here. The day international tax authorities came knocking. Operation Atlantis. Now, part of it is that up to 100 people have accounts here. Australians have accounts here with his bank. And apparently it's to avoid tax. To avoid tax. Now, I bet you some of the viewers of this channel have accounts there. So in this clip here in 60 Minutes, they show, this lawyer that's a referral agent for the Euro Pacific Bank talking about, how it's a non-reporting entity and how it's a private bank and how they don't need to declare if you earn interest. There are all these little things that makes it sound really dodgy. And Peter responds to it in his piece, and I recommend you watch both of it. But here's the thing, everyone. Here's the thing. If you really wanted to avoid tax, and you were going to ship stuff overseas, what you'd simply do is you'd set up an overseas company in a tax haven, and this is not financial advice. Give it your IP, and then charge yourself for that IP, and then funnel the money through there. There's a lot of companies that do that. There's a lot of people that do that. The problem is, the fundamental problem of all of this is, now Peter thinks it's designed to, well, to push or get public support for anti-money laundering legislation, to force lawyers and accountants to dob you in and to report you. I would not be surprised in the slightest, because I suspect there are a lot of Australians that have never heard of Peter Schiff, never heard of Euro Pacific Bank. I guarantee you, most of them have no idea who he is, and they take everything they see here at face value. Just the mere suggestion that something's gone bad. Oh, that's enough. That's enough. Now, I was talking to a certifier, actually. Because, we had 60-minute producers get in touch with us about Mascot Towers. And he was asking me some questions about it, because I've done a whole lot of videos just going through certain things and discussing it. And he was asking this other certifier about it as well. And the interesting thing was, this producer was trying to generate a story. He was trying to find someone to blame. He was talking to the certifier. Oh, what about this behavior of this other certifier? They put this exclusion or such and such in their document. It does that. Isn't that making them guilty? And the other guy said, no, mate, that's normal practice. And he asked me, what's going on here? I said, well, you know what the real problem is? The problem is the consumers aren't pushing hard enough on the developers. I don't think he liked my angle that the consumers are to blame for being stupid and not having enough knowledge. I said, that's what you really need to push for in your article, that the consumers get more knowledge and demand better results. But, that doesn't make a very good story, does it? You can't put the evil music on the background for it and put the B-roll footage and have all the people in there like this, to make you look bad. You've got to understand that's what happens in these things. They're doing stories. Sure, Peter may not be an angel, few people are, but that's not really the point, is it? So what if 100 people in Australia set up an account overseas at Euro Pacific Bank to reduce the tax? Do you really care? Because the real problem is, we've got a system in our country where people will spend time, money, and resources to legally or sometimes illegally avoid taxation. What does that tell you? Well, that tells you, quite simply, that rather than innovate, rather than invest in business, rather than employ people, rather than, create new things, people find ways to reduce the burden of the state on their back. Or, here in Australia, our favourite thing is to go into everyone's favourite topic, property. Property, and simply to negative gear it, to pump it to the moon. What do you think is going to have a greater negative impact on the average punter in Australia? Well, 100 people shipping some money overseas to Euro Pacific Bank. You still earn the money here. They're going to catch it. They're going to track it. Doesn't matter. I mean, let me know if you can find a way to minimize your tax using that. I'd be surprised. I think you need a much more complicated system in place. Or maybe it's money you earn overseas. Then ethically, what right does the Australian government to take a slice of that anyway? But the whole taxation thing is a bit iffy. What do you think is going to have a bigger impact? That, or the fact that we've incentivized generations of people to plow their money into property and making a loss, inflating the cost of it, means that the average punter has to work for years longer than previous generations to even get a chance of putting a home over their heads. And they have to pay all this tax and burden to the state before they can even think about doing that. No wonder there's an incentive for people to reduce their tax. But no, we don't talk about that, do we? We need to frame it in such a way. Because I suspect he's right. I suspect Schiff is right that this is all intended to get public support. Public support for legislative changes. We've seen it with the cash ban. They want to limit our transactions to under $10,000 in cash, even when there is no evidence that it's necessary. There's so few transactions over that amount, it's insignificant. Compliance costs will be significant, an additional burden, and they're basing it on a few town hall meetings where less people attended around the country than at the protest meetings or people rocking up to the Senate. Because some people claim it gives others an unfair advantage. That was the justification for it. What do you think? So do you think this is indeed a hatchet job, everyone? Are you a banker do you use Euro Pacific Bank? Do you think Schiff will have a win on this? Or does it, even if he manages to take action against The Age, to take action against 60 Minutes, do you think it matters? Maybe they'll publish a piece, an apology, or say, oh, well, this was unfounded at the back of their article. What's more concerning is if this can create public support for more government intervention, legislation, and restrictions on our freedoms, on our ability to conduct business. If the anti-money laundering laws and requirements, reporting obligations are pushed onto accountants, are pushed onto lawyers, are pushed onto people you want to do business with, then more and more information gets funneled to the state. That's really the scary thing. How many people do you think read apologies? Or would even care? This is enough. This is just fuel. There'd be so many people outraged. So many people outraged. And notice the people who are always the ones that are saying, I'm happy to pay my tax. I just want such and such to pay their fair share. Now, most of them never pay tax. Most people don't pay tax. What they do is their bosses pay tax on their behalf because the government thinks they're too much of a child to actually send the money themselves. They're paternalistic. It's this pay-as-you-go problem. I was talking to a viewer yesterday, and I was saying, we really need to get rid of that so people realize how much tax they pay. And he was going, it'll never happen. I agree, it won't. It's psychologically, it's very different when you actually send money out of your account, every month or every quarter to the tax department. And then when you see what that money's spent on, frivolous waste, thousands of dollars on gift watches for people in government organizations. I know that's not tax money, but you get my point. It would be a very different world we lived in Australia if everyone had to actually feel the pain that the state is inflicting on them. Instead, the average punter thinks taxes are great because they get money back at the end of the year, not realizing they've been overcharged and not paid any interest on that. This whole thing with paying tax in advance, I would prefer to just sit that money in an account and offset it on my mortgage. Sure, I won't get much, but I'll get something. So, what do you think, everyone? Do you think this is, a fantastic investigation catching out Schiff and his Euro-Pacific Bank for those 100 Australians that are, offshoring their money to get that sweet, sweet interest, as they were saying in this thing? I mean, they make reference to Westpac. Westpac is horrific with what they've done with their non-compliance issues. So, I'd suggest you have a look at Schiff's response, as well as watch the 60-minute one. Because, well, it's something I think a lot of people probably already have. What do you think is the big issue? The taxation, or people getting out of taxation overseas, or the fact that we have a system set up with such a burden that people put so much energy into minimizing it? As always, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan and want to support the content I created, there are a few ways you can. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care. I'll see you next time.